about a scenario that you or someone you know has probably experienced. A person, let's call her Taylor, is looking for a job. Taylor submits her application for an opening at a company where lots of her friends currently work. Taylor gets an interview, and afterwards, she leaves feeling confident that she made a good impression on the interviewer. When she gets home, Taylor sees an email from the company and fully expects to find an offer waiting. Instead, she finds instructions to take an online personality assessment. She wasn't expecting this. Taylor begins the assessment and right away notices she's being asked to agree or disagree with statements like, "I read 10 books per year," "I would never buy the first car I test drive," and "I know why stars twinkle." Taylor is dismayed and begins to ask herself, how is she supposed to prepare for this? What are the right answers? How can anyone possibly tell how qualified she is based on her responses? Everyone will go through the hiring process at some point in their life as an applicant. If you're a student, you're probably dreading this part of graduation. But many of you will also be on the other side of that process as well. Maybe as a manager who's looking to find someone who's the best fit for their team. It's not always easy to see how the hiring process is related to the job or how to use that information to hire the best applicant. This can lead to frustration on both sides. As an applicant, you're applying to multiple jobs, and you don't want to waste your time on an assessment if there isn't a good reason to take it. You're also looking to showcase your best attributes to companies, and it's hard to know how to do that in an online setting. Managers can be frustrated because paying for these assessments and interpreting the results uses company resources, and those resources are wasted if the hiring process results in a poor performer. To minimize frustration and resources on both sides, it's important that hiring assessments are linked to performance and can help differentiate between candidates. Have you ever taken a BuzzFeed quiz to tell you what Harry Potter house you're in? Or maybe what character from The Office you're most like? How much value do you put on the results of those quizzes? Would you want hiring companies to make decisions based on similar assessments? That's where industrial and organizational psychology, or IO psychology for short, comes in. IO psychology is the practice of using scientific psychological principles in workplace applications. One of the key goals of an IO psychologist is to create assessments that are based in science and are statistically linked to better performance on the job. As a personality assessment expert, I use science every day to make workplace selection and development practices more efficient, accurate, and fair. In personality assessment, I'm not concerned with how you respond to any one of those statements. I care about what your aggregate responses can tell me about you and your reputation at work. By comparing how others describe someone with a similar pattern of responses, I can get an idea of how someone's likely to describe you. And there are no right answers. There are strengths and watch-outs for all scores. Let's go back to those questions that were worrying Taylor. I read 10 books per year. Your response to this tells me something about your learning style. If you agree with this statement, you probably have a more traditional learning style. And if you disagree with this statement, you probably prefer a more hands-on approach. How does that work in the real world? Well, let me tell you a personal story. I'm someone who would agree with this statement. I read a lot, and I would say I have a pretty traditional learning style. I recently got a flat tire and called my husband to come help me fix it. He was understandably frustrated and asked why I couldn't do it myself. And I said, well, I've read the manual, and theoretically I know how to change a tire, but I've never actually done it. What about those other statements? I would never buy the first car I test drive. Your response to that tells me something about your orientation towards risk. If you agree with that statement, I know you're probably more careful, and you can be overly fearful of failure. And if you disagree with that statement, you probably tolerate ambiguity well, but you can also be prone to impulsivity. I know why stars twinkle. Your response to that statement tells me something about your inquisitiveness, about how the world works. If you agree with that statement, I know you're probably a pretty curious person, but you can also get easily bored. And if you disagree with that statement, you're probably more of a practical person, and you can tend to get stuck in your comfort zone. Combining your responses across similar statements can give me insight into your day-to-day behaviors, awareness of things you might struggle with on the job, and what you value. What IO psychologists do has immense benefits for companies who need to sort through their applicant pool to find the best person for the job. Assessments provide valuable insight into the candidate that goes beyond their resume and how well they interact socially. My company has over 1,000 studies showing that organizations who use science-based assessments hire better employees who stay with the company longer and who advance to positions of greater responsibility. But the benefits extend to you as the applicant as well. Your job is a core piece of your identity. Your parents and even strangers probably asked you what you wanted to be as early as 4 or 5, and they continue to do so as you mature. Once you find a job, you'll spend nearly 2,000 hours per year performing the tasks associated with that job. When you're on the job market, you want to showcase your best attributes to potential employers. But not all of us are great in an interview setting. Assessments give us the chance to learn more about you and whether you'll be successful in that role. When assessments are not based in science, it can have a negative impact on applicants and the company's reputation. When hiring decisions are made based on emotion rather than data, it could result in employee unhappiness, but in more severe cases like discrimination, the company could even find itself in a lawsuit. And there can be other types of costs as well. I was recently involved in a study where employees who were selected without using a science-based assessment were 54% more likely to be involved in a workplace accident. Assessments can help us identify and screen out these individuals before they have the chance to injure themselves and others. Finding a job and finding applicants can be hard. Finding the right job and the right applicant can be even more difficult. Using assessments that are linked to performance can help companies hire better employees and ensure that you'll be successful and fulfilled in your new role. And this isn't just important for personality assessment, it's important for all parts of the hiring process. So now you know there's a science behind asking you if you know why stars twinkle. The next time that you take a quiz, apply for a job, or use assessment results to hire a candidate, I challenge you to think about the science behind them and how your responses can help you in current and future roles. Thank you.